Hello! So this video is going to be a bit of an intro and the start of the cheap bike build off. This was started over on Instagram. I'm really late at announcing this on YouTube. It actually started in February and it's going to be sort of all wrapped up by the end of February. I'm sorry I'm so late at announcing it. I'm hoping that most of you have already sort of seen this and know about it and have got your bikes started by now, but if not, it's always a good time to build cheap bikes, so just build something anyway. So the lowdown for this is $150 US limit, or just converted into your currency. So for me that's 240 roughly New Zealand dollars. Second is you can use your parts bin and stuff, just put like some kind of value on it. So I'd roughly do like what I would pass it on for. The bike should be picked up pretty recently, I feel, or from now until the end. You've only got a week left, so let's be real, it's probably not going to happen. But it shouldn't be like a grail bike that you picked up for like a gobby and a six-pack fucking 6 years ago or something like that. But if it's something reasonably realistic, like a Specialized or something that you got for 30-40 bucks, you know, a couple months back, then I'd like allow some leeway there. For me personally, I've got some pretty cool bikes laying around that I've got like for free or really cheap. I'm not going to be using those. I picked up this bike specifically for this challenge. I picked it up for 30 or 35 New Zealand dollars. I'm going to be going through all the prices of everything as I go along. This is started by Max or Mullet Mechanic on Instagram. There's a few other people that are involved with this as well, but this is open to the public, so you can just join along, just build some cheap bikes and have some fun. I'll leave their info in the description below, but let's get up to the video. The Shogun effort system. Got a Toga saddle with a couple of rips in it. Seat post looks tidy. Crankset is just some cheap low-end stuff, same as the derailleurs and everything else. Wheels look okay. The wheels seem to run okay. A couple of rusty spokes and stuff. Tires from the Century, they're Lifeline Central Commuters. Brake pads feel very old, they don't work too well. The brakes themselves though I quite like, because these are like the adjustable springs, so similar to how U-brakes on BMX bikes work, but they're a cantilever brake. Some well good pedals, pretty nice to have. The newer ones of these develop quite a bit of play, but this sort of era seem to be pretty hardy. The shifters, I quite like these. They have this little mountain graphic, so uphill, downhill. Pretty cool. Left side is also indexed. I learned this from Paul, but these shifters are pretty handy to have for like flat bar converting drop bar old 12-speed bikes. Quite like the brake levers on these, so they're separate from the shifter, so I can use those on like single speed bikes and stuff. Quite a nice feel to them. Up front we just got like a regular flat bar 1/8 quill stem, so the cable routing going to the hanger, that makes it a bit easier. We can change up the stem and stuff quite easy. Tanjoloi rigid gauge fork blades. Some scratches here and there, but the paint overall looks so cool. Sort of given it the name Alien Jizz. Only thing is, I would like there to be more purple on the drive side. There's like a decent amount on the fork blade, but there's like mostly green on this side. Whereas on this side, there's quite a decent amount of purple, which looks really cool. If I had some purple of this color, I could go over the other side and add like a little bit extra purple. It looks like blown on. That's quite a cool metallic purple, which I don't think I'll have. bottom bracket area doesn't look too crusty. Looks like the spindle is quite rusty, so we might have to soak some WD-40 on that before we try and get it out. This bike does have one of those stands that attaches to the seat stays and chain stays. These normally leave like paint marks and stuff, so we're going to take this off. If I do have a stand or do want to put a stand, I'll put it on by the bottom bracket there. But the stand actually works fine. Formula quick release in tidy condition. We're not going to use these tyres, but might be able to sell those or something, pass them on to someone for a few dollars. I've got some different grips for it. These foam ones are all loose and pretty much have no padding left in them. So starting to strip it down now. The bike looked like it was in pretty good condition from the outside, but you never really know how stuck the bolts and everything are going to be. So I went over with some WD-40, clipped off the cables. You can see, yeah, pretty dry cables here. I'm guessing these are probably the original ones. There's no way of knowing though. Undoing the quill bolt here. This was a little bit stuck. Bit of a tap from the hammer there. Normally gets them unstuck. So after pulling out the stem, you can just see how dry it was. Normally there's some grease on the quill and wedge here, but this was just completely and utterly dry. So we got pretty lucky that that wasn't all seized and stuck in place, but I guess there was no moisture in the area that they stored the bike in, because New Zealand being pretty well coastal, the air and everything is quite salty. So bikes rust out pretty quick here. Taking the brakes off and then the bottle cage. So we're just going to strip the bike down completely and then give it a bit of a clean up. It's always good to know what you're working with as well, just for, you know, future owners and stuff as well. Taking the cranks off, just cleaning out the threads here before putting the crank tool in, just to make sure that the tool goes in nicely. I've stripped a couple of cranks in my time, so it just pays to put it in nicely. You don't want to tighten it up too much before trying to remove the crank arm. Just get it like snugged down, then back it off a little bit. I had a bad feeling about these cranks because the tool didn't want to go in like too nicely. Like the threads didn't seem 100% correct. But as it turns out, the crank just came off really easily. It almost seemed loose. Bottom bracket looks okay. And we checked the chain here just to make sure if we could reuse it or not. So it's not coming up into the 0.75 mark, so we can still use this on another drivetrain. I don't know if we'll be using these wheels. The rear one has some rusty spokes and stuff, and it is just a 6-speed freewheel hub. So we could use this as a single-speed wheel, like if we take the 6-speed off and sort of dish the rim over, we can use it as an SS setup at some point. But we're going to take everything apart and clean it up if we are going to use it anyway. I really like these brakes. I do have some green cantilever brakes that I think I'll use on this bike, but we'll be using these on something else anyway. Just nice to have cantilever brakes that have spring adjustments on both sides. These derailleurs really come in handy. Just a nice, sturdy, reliable derailleur. Non-drive side crank arm. I was expecting this to be sort of loose as well. I don't know if the drive side had sort of like wallowed out the tapers a little bit, but it came out a bit too easily. So the non-drive side came off, no issues there. And the non-drive side cup came undone as well. This is where we started to see some rust. Not really the best sign, but as long as there's not too much rust, then the bike should be okay internally. And actually the stand didn't do too much damage to the chainstay here. The drive side cut came out pretty easily, even though I'm using the wrong tool here. And you can see there's no grease in here. So with the cages rusting out and everything, that just spreads the rust out through the BB shell. So not too surprising that there's rust in here. And it also has one of those plastic sleeves in the shell. So that is a really good way to trap water down there as well. So it looks awful. It is just that dusty stuff. It's not big chunks of metal, you know, like rusted or corroded metal. So hopefully if we just clean it out and everything, it'll come up okay. Give it a bit of a scrub with a toothbrush. Then some isopropyl alcohol just to clean it out. From here we can see the state of it. So there is some surface rust, but it doesn't look too bad. There's a bit of rust worming and the texture looks pretty even overall. Doesn't look like it's raised up or eaten away at it too much. So hopefully if we just clean it up and then treat it, it won't further spread from there. So we just use our little Dremel with a wire wheel or wire brush on it. Clean it up the best we can, and then we can sort of see the damage there. Doesn't look too bad. So we're going to use some rust converter and treat it from there. And that'll help prevent it from spreading in the future. If you don't have any rust converter, just use some oil and just soak it in there. And then as long as it doesn't form any like big huge puddles in the bottom bracket, then that'll keep it going for a really long time, I'd say. So this is the bike all stripped down now. Really cool paint job on it. I like that pink outline as well on the decals. So this is a quick little mock-up of how I think it will be. Likely with these tires, just because they're so chunky and they were cheap. Maybe with this handlebar, not 100% sure yet. Look how chunky they are. So these were some free tires off a mate. They're all cracked and stuff and ready to be chucked out really. The rear is pretty bad too. It's kind of hard to see in the video. But they look awesome. So chunky. 2.5 in the front and 2.3 in the rear. Don't know if this handlebar will stay. Maybe with a different stem might look a bit better. It's not too wide, but has a nice bit of rise and a little bit of back sweep. Or we could use this Ergotech handlebar, which has less rise but more back sweep. We've also got a Moto handlebar, which might fit into the budget, but it might not. Or we could swap the tires to these Fat Frank. I think the other one is a CST, but it looks about the same. We've got a front basket from Daiso too. It's about the same size as a Wald 137. Just not as sturdy, but $5. I mean, $5 for a basket is pretty decent. I probably should have grabbed a few of these. Anyway, thanks for checking the video out. That's about all for today. We've got another one coming up shortly though, so stay tuned. We've got this coming up in a video soon too.